All right, I now call on the 2021 DAV Department of California Finance Committee to order. I will now call on Adjutant Daniel Contreras, our National 3rd Junior Vice Commander, PSC, for the roll call.
Commander Mike Kerr.
Present.
Daniel Contreras, CEO, Adjutant Treasurer, present. Joseph Mosley.
Present.
George Steese.
Present.
James Bogan.
Present.
Thank you. Nancy Casey.
Present.
Guy Anastasia.
Here.
Dennis Weber.
Here.
All present.
Great. At this time, I'll ask the adjutant if there are any additional items for the agenda.
Yes, there is.
Okay, and that's already attached to the paperwork, right?
That is correct. That is correct. And it's listed under item number 9.
Great. And then at this time, I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting, which is also attached to this paperwork.
He so moves.
Bogan second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor signify by aye.
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 All those approved say nay. The motion carries. At this time, I will now entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
He so moves.
Bogan second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
All those opposed with nay. Motion carries. Moving on to number 6 for the treasurer's report, I will now call on Adjutant Daniel Contreras, National 3rd Junior Vice Commander, PSD, to review the treasurer's report. Don't get shy on us now, Dan.
No, it was just the unmuting part of it. I muted it because the big train was coming by again. All right. Well, thank you everybody for being here, taking a part of your busy day. So I just want to say this, that having a mid-year conference wasn't something that we had to do, but I thought it was very vital that we do continue to communicate with each other. And of course, part of that has always been the transparency of our department. A lot of things are based on our program fund. So 2020 was the year of the virus, and 21 is going to be the year of the vaccine and recovery. We know that there was a massive recession that was brought on by COVID, and we've seen a massive bounce off the bottom, and it was, of course, helped by a multi-trillion-dollar stimulus and a lot of the Fed's actions in regards to the pandemic. The current recovery is slowing because large portions of the economy are still hampered by what's going on as far as government restrictions. The election itself is almost a distant memory for most people, but it's totally still overshadowed by the pandemic and policies that are going to be related to pandemic recovery, like health and economics. But eventually the economy plows forward despite all of these governmental controls by either party. And of course, particularly now with the balance of power being split, we just are still in kind of that gray area, or we'll all be anticipating or anxious for what's going to happen to our economy. Interesting enough, the seasonal flu is down 98%. But the reason why is, everyone's wearing masks. And so mask social distancing, washing our hands, all of that is part of it. But we should be looking at a vaccine distribution for about 200 million Americans, and that should happen by the end of July. That, along with the recovery of COVID survivors who are basically the herd immunity concept, we won't see all of that effect until probably the end of the third quarter. So about the fall is when we're going to be looking at when all of that will play a part of things. But the goal is, of course, to fully vaccinate anybody 65 or older by the end of the first quarter. And if we can do that, we're going to be able to decrease or reduce the mortality rate by 80%. And so the GDP, we're still a long way from our peak back in 2019, and even further than we would have been without the pandemic. Q3 and Q4, so the third quarter and fourth quarter of this year, we should see a surge in growth, as well as in 22, we should be really strong. And maybe by again, but still we're going to see slow growth throughout that process. Unemployment, the U.S. has lost over 22 million jobs, and it's an understatement to say that it's still bad. The unemployment rate should be around 5% by the end of this year, and that's good. That's really good. Corporate earnings held up well in 2020 and could hit new highs in 21. But the big question for 22 is, what are going to be the new tax laws that are going to be coming from this administration? And so, we're looking at it just in a year or so, it's going to be, once again, another time for elections. And so, 22 will also play a part in our economy, as well as in our portfolio itself when it comes to the decisions that we make. Inflation is upward surge demand for discretionary services. And so that should push inflation to around 2% over the next several years. US stocks finished the year very strong. The Dow was up 9%, and the S&P itself was up 18%. International stocks closed the year up as well, 8%. Emerging markets had a really strong growth as 18%. The large growth stocks, hopefully a lot of you saw the bottom and jumped right in, because the pandemic drove a really mega surge in the large growth stocks. And if you're trying to get in now, it's kind of, you're past the game. Small cap stocks, they grew as well, and they're very strong right now. So international equities are significantly cheaper as well. And as I indicated, they also had some growth this past year. Fixed income, I know this is one of Dennis's favorite topics. They had a really good year as well. The fixed income was up 7%. As always, if you look at our consolidated overview, a lot of what we do, and if you're looking at the consolidated overview, it's dated 12/6 through 12/31/2020. We have two parts of our portfolio: the Smart Cap Core 3 and the Freedom Growth. And the Freedom Growth is really what drives basically not only an approach to how we invest with the analytics and everything that happens, because it was kind of scary for me to watch that during this past year, because when I thought we should be holding back on certain moves with our portfolio, it was moving forward. But that's the forward thinking that our portfolio has. So for us to say that, we're at $4.2 million in our portfolio when we lost over $700,000 during the course of the pandemic, especially initially. I gave Nate Brown a lot of credit. He's our financial advisor with Trilogy. And I told him to pass on our appreciation to his team and his staff for, the diligent work that they've done and how they've been able to really weather the storm and have been great partners in protecting our portfolio and making the smart moves. So you can look at our asset classes are a little bit stronger in its position. In equities, we're at 73%, and in bonds, we're at 24%. So our split in fixed income versus equities is a little bit stronger right now. But once again, if you looked at the freedom growth portion of our portfolio, that's really what drives us into equities at the right time. And if the market is in the foreseeable future becomes one that is more volatile, and so I'll go into a little bit more of a basically things are going to remain the same when the Federal Reserve is considered. Interest rates are, considerably low right now, and they're going to keep those rates low, probably well into 2024, and so the market likes that. And if you were smart when you were watching the Georgia elections, and there was a possibility of control of the Senate, that meant that infrastructure, that meant that electric cars, that meant that solar energy, that meant that all of those things were investments. And if you look at, we're very, and that's alternative investments. And so our strategic investing practices are based on just an analytical review of what is going to make these things change like that. We're looking forward to the stimulus. That's going to help. That's going to help the job market. But what we're looking at, and this is why, we didn't have a in-house convention. We didn't have a convention in June, and we don't know if we'll have a convention in this year. But that tells you that's a sector, travel, leisure, all of those things have to come back. That's a major part of our economy. And so these stimuluses are so important that they're going to help kind of balance, what's going on, especially in with unemployment figures and people's pocketbooks. But I'll move on to our there's a lot of information for all of you in regards to the diversification of our investments, exactly the sectors that are involved and how much investments are. And if you have any questions that I can answer, I'll certainly get the answers for you from our investment advisors at Trilogy. If we look at our net worth statement, in our checking and general fund right now, we have $82,616. In the market rate, general fund is $115,409. Checking and claims and services fund is $39,252. Market rate claims and services fund is $52,971. In the van replacement fund, $63,195. Payroll holding, $43,253. Petty cash, $31. And our program fund as of 12/15 is $4,151,141. So our total current assets are $4,547,868. Assets that are fixed is our department headquarters building, $644,091. Our headquarters vehicles, $16,500. So total fixed assets at $660,591. And our total assets at $5,208,459. One of the things that was brought up at our last finance meeting is the liabilities that we've never had in our department, but we did take advantage of the government's PPP loan program. And so you can see that on our total assets. As far as liabilities now, it is listed at our liability under that loan is $240,569. And right here is the documentation and the processes that we need to do to apply for the waivers for those that loan in particular. Right now, the majority of our employees, we probably have about 60% of the department employed right now. The majority of those who are on furlough are the transportation coordinators. Even a headquarters staff person remains on furlough. That's Caitlin. And so we're doing what we can, tightening our belts and we suspended merit increases. And we are really just trying to make sure that we weather this storm. Yeah, so is there any question regarding the program fund report as far as the investments itself or our net worth statement from any members of the committee? Hearing none, I'm going to move on to the actual budget. Once again, this is dated December 16th, 2020. So I'm basing all of our information from that specific report. So in our income, our budget for member per capita is 200,000. We've received 155,000 for member per capita. Miscellaneous donations, only $174 have been received. The LACMTA, if you look at that, and you're wondering what that is the,
This news update is sponsored by Harris Restaurant. To-go meals at Harris.
okay. The LACMTA line number 4100 is what we received from the city of Los Angeles as a temporary easement encroachment that's going to happen because of the bridge project, and so we received that already. However, we have hired a law firm in regards to the validity and the dollar figure that the city has offered us in regards to, so we could actually take the money but still appeal it and file a lawsuit against the city that it's not enough. The encroachment, basically the disturbance, all of the what's going to be a permanent air easement above our headquarters office. A lot of this is recommended by the law firm that we hired to not be enough. So the 31,000 is what we can actually use to pay for the services of the law firm, and so why not? So we've done that. So that explains that. The state convention, obviously no receipts for that. Interest is our banking account, and we've not divested anything from the reserve fund, so there's nothing there. The California Rehab Foundation has provided us with some general support at the $35,000 mark. Members, I'm just asking you to kind of peruse the expense aspect of the general fund. And if you have any questions regarding that, once again, we are most definitely conscientious and very frugal and very transparent. So if you have any questions regarding the expenses, I'll entertain any questions that you may have regarding that on the general fund. If not, I'm going to move on to the claims and services fund. So income with the claims and services fund, with DAV Industries, this is our San Diego operations. They have resumed almost full operations when it comes to our department service officers and our transportation program. We still have some aspects of our employee staff on furlough, and when we will resume that is still a question, or we haven't concluded when that will happen. With our partners of the Charities of Central California, we're negotiating and working with them for some resumption of support. The California Rehab Foundation's already provided $200,000 of their $455,000, which was dedicated to supporting the department. United Way, a little bit of money, $135,000 we received. Donations under miscellaneous, we can attribute over $4,000 to that. No bequest support yet. No midwinter, obviously. We're not going to have a reception. Brightburn, this is now a specific line item to the relationship that we have with Brightburn. We project that it's going to be approximately $156,000 that we're going to receive from them during this fiscal year, based on what we received from before. But even that well is starting to literally well. You get it? They're a petrol oil well kind of thing. Oh gosh, you guys are bad. So interest, once again, banking 198. Reserve fund, we have not divested anything. National contributions, we did receive our November, December distribution from the national organization. National contributions. So I'll clarify that with Tammy. But so all of these things are typical income sources. And once again, if you look at expenses, everything is tracking according to our budget. When we meet again for our budget meeting at a later date to be determined, we'll look at expenditures and just kind of the flow and really the necessary support to that specific line item that we have. And we are going to be discussing an additional item on the agenda, and so I will get to that. But you did get the transaction report, so please and give us your approval on the transaction report. Just basically lists all of the distribution, and George and Mike will be sending you guys out the actual credit card statement for your review, and I'll entertain any questions you or the committee may have.
Thank you, Dan. I just wanted to point out that hopefully at the end of the month, the DAV charities up here in the Central Valley should cut a check. So
we appreciate that. Thank you so much. We understand what's happening in this economy and everything else, so every little bit helps. We appreciate it.
And a quick question, you were talking about the easement. Because it was going to be for an air easement. So is it going to be actually over the building, part of the construction?
The air easement is actually going to be supportive communication and wires that are going to actually go over the building itself. But it'll be pretty high, where it won't encroach or we'll probably get some radiation and but I don't know. But the other part of it, and we can definitely provide it to you or any of the members, the actual project schematics. But imagine, you've been to headquarters before. Marquardt, that's across the street, is going to come underneath the bridge and circle in front of our building, and we will be aligned parallel with a parallel approach to Rosecrans. So headquarters won't be on Rosecrans anymore; it will be on Marquardt, and so the temporary easement is going to completely take away, if you look at our buildings, completely take away the right side parking lot indefinitely while they're under construction. There'll be definitely almost a setback of just the open space to the street while they're building the bridge. And so, yeah, I mean, there's going to be so much to consider. So it's going to be inconvenient to us as employees. It's going to be inconvenient to anybody who is visiting our office via vendors or our members, or for us to sometimes we'll be displaced because they're going to have to shut down our power and water and everything else. So the law firm has represented several other major entities, hotels, businesses in and around our area, and really thinks that, their thought process is that, we are entitled to a whole lot more. There have been several hearings in regards to this, but as you know, during the pandemic, a lot of this has been virtual, but we are in constant communication with the law firm. And I'll also have to interject this. This is all regarding high-speed rail. And the continuation of high-speed rail. I mean, we can ask you two, George and Mike, what's happening in Fresno with high-speed rail? Are they continuing that build, or is it all suspended right now?
No, they're continuing it, going into Madera and going south from across 99 and going south down towards Hanford and all. We'll see. They've already gotten across the San Joaquin River. It's a beautiful structure, but whether it'll ever be used or not, it's questionable.
Yeah.
It's just something that we have no control over. I mean, it's something that was voted on and all, and probably a lot of that money could be used more wisely elsewhere. However, it's a project that the Fed, I think the Fed's pulled out, and it's pretty much on the state now. But I anticipate with all this economic crisis and the pandemic and all, at some point we'll see it stop. It has slowed down. They were projecting that it would be through Madera by now, but it has really slowed down there. So, we'll see.
Yeah, we've not seen any dirt moved around here in quite a while, and you guys have been out here, but not recently. And across the street where there used to be buildings, there's a green fence that's perfect for graffiti, and they've graded all of the land across the street, and so right now that's growing tumbleweeds and just it's kind of at a standstill. But nonetheless, we've already received the $31,000. They can't take that back from us.
Graffiti is art now, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Street art.
Yeah, you wouldn't call that art across the street from here. But yeah, so thank you guys for interjecting what's happening regarding high-speed rail, because I mean it not only affects the Central Valley, but like I said, like what they call as tiger money that the federal government was investing in here on this bridge project. I want to say it was like $35 million or something like that, and so who knows if that will end up happening as far as the high-speed rail and the extension that's necessary to build that bridge, which we weren't subject to eminent domain and having to move and everything like that, but I kind of wish we would have, but we'll wait and see. But thank you. Any other questions?
Hey, Dan, I object to you lumping me in with George since I am not a Fresno resident anymore.
My apologies, but you know what? You still have to own it.
Fresno's getting better and better every day.
I was born and raised there, and so I take offense to that, Mike.
And I'm looking forward to the grand reopening at our new location.
Cha-cha, right on.
I have a request to speak.
Go for it, Dennis.
In listening, Dan, to the problems of construction in Santa Fe Springs, I have thought of a possible solution short term, and that would be to put some double wide trailers on the property here in Woodland Hills as a interim office. And if you thought about relocating, there is enough land here that's not being used to make a new department headquarters in Woodland Hills and get out of Santa Fe Springs. Now, the only problem that I see would be the zoning commission for the city of Los Angeles, because there's a lot of residential houses in this immediate area. But I don't know if it could be taken into consideration at City Hall, maybe for a zoning change. But the DAV is losing people like crazy. Chapter 73 lost 5 very important people in the last year. And if we don't do something, we're not going to be able to have a meeting. My first thought was possibly do some merging with other chapters, but it would be a shame to lose this property because it's been here so long and it's so valuable to the organization. And I personally wouldn't mind sharing it with headquarters.
Well, you know what? I mean, and thank you, Dennis, because that is something that the late, great Larry Bolzine and I have talked about. And I'm sure, George, you've heard, and James and, Delphine, or, just in a visionary aspect. And one of the reasons, or there was something that I looked at when I assumed this role in 2008, is that in the Constitution and bylaws, our department could be anywhere in Los Angeles County. So there's no prohibition for us to move headquarters. It's just, at the time I took over, we were in our last, economic disaster, and not only the residential market, but the commercial market was something that really wasn't a smart move financially to basically move headquarters somewhere else. But we'll have to see how much it impacts us, for this project that's going on. But if it is completed, then it's actually going to be better. We're not going to have a train going by honking its horn all the time. We're not going to have the number one pedestrian vehicle train fatality location in the entire state of California anymore. And we're going to have more parking space. And it literally, I think, will be an improvement. But I think, that temporary move may be something that, depending on how much they go ahead and how much it affects us in the construction should it happen. But what you're talking about, I think, is something that all leaders and visionaries should talk about is what do we do with DAV moving forward, especially like a chapter like 73. When you lose stalwarts like Larry and others who have been the workhorses and the life and blood of those chapters, you have to find those who are going to be willing to receive the torch. And so, yeah, I totally agree.
One of the things we need to take into consideration is how it's affecting the overall environment at the current building, because as you become more industrial, more hidden and all, you've got homeless problem where homeless can start encamping there. You have lack of vision by the police as they ride by. So if we could get our value out of the building, it might be worth looking at that. The other thing is the displacement of employees that work there, and where are they going to move closer, or is it going to affect them? So there's a lot to look at, but I agree, Dennis, that Woodland Hills might be a better location because it's with houses around, you have more protection as far as people vandalizing and all. And we've had some vandalism at the building down in Los Angeles at Santa Fe Springs over time, and that's costly. So, it's something that needs to be looked at and possibly get a realtor to start looking and see what buildings are going, what is the value of our building currently, because we've always carried it on the books at 600,000, but is there a higher value? If we were to sell the property, would it be better to invest in Woodland Hills property? Do we own the Woodland Hills property outright?
I think so.
Then that might be something, Dan, that we would want to get started looking at and all. I think that it's something
we've done assessments in the past as far as like our building and have worked with different real estate agents. So yeah, to re-engage with that is has something to do. So I'll certainly work on that, and I'll get back to the committee on some recommendations and so for me and Robert, that's our neck of the woods.
I thought of you and Robert, and I said, this would be perfect for you. But, getting back to Santa Fe Springs, it looks to me like you're going to be living in an environment that is full of pollution because you got vehicle traffic nonstop. They're kicking up dust. That office is going to be needing a bath once a week with all the dust settling. So I'd get out of there. If I had a vote, I'd get out of there.
Yeah, and that's just where, like I said, right now there's a stall in any kind of construction. Environmentally, construction sites now have to keep dust down. They have all kinds of other criteria within that, because we've not seen that even when they were grading across the street. That was so controlled, and they do that on the highways and everything like that. So, but let's table this conversation. I'll go ahead and bring back some information to the committee next time. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move on to our additional item if I can.
Well, I think you're skipping ahead because I'm going to have to get approval for that report that you gave us.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
But I do thank you, Dennis, for bringing that up and everybody's contributions. That's one of the reasons I was at the committee.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Thank you, Dennis. So I would, at this time, like to entertain a motion to approve the treasurer's report.
Steve so moves.
Hogan second.
Great. I have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right. All those opposed say nay. None. It approves. So now we move on to 8 for the approval of all transactions since the last meeting. We just scanned through those briefly. I hope everybody's had a chance to review them before this meeting. And with that said, I would now like to entertain a motion to approve all of the transactions since our last meeting.
Steve, so moved.
Baldwin so moved.
All right. I have a first and a second. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries.
I want to congratulate the Department for saving money and having us print out our own 121 pages of document.
You don't have to
Well, I
print
think-
them out. You don't have to print them out. Just look at them. Robert, if you're on the line, send George a rim of paper.
No, that's okay. I can afford a ream, but you know, what do I do with all this? It's just
All right.
Well, you probably
Recycle,
need
George.
it for your fireplace at your place on the coast, George.
yeah, okay, I'm here now. So
All right. Now we will, as Dan alluded to, move on to our additional items. Sir, if you'll carry on.
Yeah. Before I forget, all of those of you who are going to be a part of the foundation meeting, that is a separate and distinct meeting, and your invitation will be specific to you for the Zoom meeting that we're going to have regarding the foundation. If you have any difficulty getting on, that meeting is going to start at 1 o'clock. So once again, so if you're part of that, the foundation meeting, it's a separate invitation link that you should have received from the foundation. So moving on to the additional item, you know, this discussion has been brought up historically, and you know, this is will be the unity of the individuals that make up this very committee. In 2021, the ability has been finally set in stone. A program that not only adds value to those who are the backbone of our operations in our organization, but also to our organization's ability to be a competitive employer in the field of veteran service organizations. And so, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for allowing me to introduce the DAV California Employment Healthcare Plan. So to establish a full coverage DAV California Employee Healthcare Plan, it's going to cost annually $78,671.76 specifically. The background of this particular presentation started like back in 2019 when we really became ambitious. And so with due diligence being placed into vetting out various healthcare providers, in November 2019, we received feedback from all of the employees on whether they would want the organization to provide healthcare for them and their families, and based on a 100%, 75, and 50% employer contribution. The research produced mixed results, and it varied across the board from employees not wanting healthcare, primarily because their ability to access care for themselves as well as their families due to their military compensation benefits, and to some employees only being able to take advantage of the option if the employer paid no less than 75%. So we're fortunate to have the foundation show compassion and interest in the conversation. So as they see the benefit that this is to our employees having a healthcare plan, and asking us to vet yet another avenue of possible approach. And so we sought out a cafeteria type plan that would benefit the company. Unfortunately, that option best benefits those with that have healthcare plans already, as companies like Aflac is a supplemental insurance company. And so to add value to those who feel their insurance is lackluster for their situations, even after hearing that news, the foundation agreed to fund as much as $50,000 towards a DAV California employee healthcare plan. With that being said, I feel that the Foundation and Finance Committee will be pleased that the final findings and the route that we feel will be best suited for our employees will be that we settled on a middle of the road Kaiser Silver plan. So it's a Kaiser HMO Silver plan. Employees will have full access to full network of providers. The deductibles will be $2,500, $2,800, and $5,000 respectively. And it will pay 80% of doctor visits, labs, and x-rays, special appointments, emergency room visits, urgent care, and outpatient surgery, with a possible out-of-expense maximum of $13,702 annually. And dental and vision are also included. So similar to the industry standard, our employees will have an annual sign-up period to opt in and opt out or change their plans as they see fit. The employees have the opportunity to buy up to a higher tier form of insurance with a difference of contributions coming from their own paycheck. We currently have 9 of 20 employees of our employees who are interested in the California Employee Health Care Plan. And 3 of those employees being veterans. Chairman Kerr, our employees work hard for this organization. We know that, and asking for very little. And I feel it will put the health of them and their families in front of what we support. We will be able to extend their lifeline of holdings on the quality teammates that we really, the work that we do every day. And with their peace of mind, they will feel better about representing the DAV in the public eye. I'll entertain any questions that any of the members may have in regards to this proposal.
Dan,
Quick- Go
real
ahead, George.
quick, I'm sorry, I was muting and unmuting and whatever, but anyways. So on the front of your synopsis here, okay, you show a 78,000 annually. And that's for the entire staff
That's a projection based on the entire staff. Yeah,
for this silver plan.
right, for the silver plan. Yes.
Okay, okay. So at 75%, it would cost us 59,000. And the employee would then, I take it, pay the 25% themselves, the other 25%?
Correct.
Okay. And do you have any idea how many employees would actually take,
Well,
take part in it? We have to pay all, but
Right now we had 9 of 20, but like I said, we could talk about what's feasible, and it's going to have a lot to do with our conversation later on that we have in the foundation.
yeah.
And so that's where we feel like, based on what we have allocated for our employee salaries, because that's where this is going to come out of, is that budget. We feel that we can do this. I know that the present administration, and I'm talking about the Biden administration, has basically plans to provide a universal health care or some other kind of health care. So all of this is probably in flux, based on that. But right now, looking at what we have as an opportunity to provide what we believe is one that's going to be well received by our employees, this is kind of at least a stepping stone to offer it to our employees. Because even now, based on the fact the employees are going to have out-of-pocket expenses, they're going to have deductibles, they're going to have these things, and maybe their existing plan right now is something that is not as beneficial to them in regards to apples and apples when it comes to this plan. But this is going to require an approval from this committee. But I think, like right now, based on this information, I think we've table this long enough, and we.
I think, Dan, you're right. And I think that it's time that we start investing in our employees and in our programs. And if we have to take some away from some of the outside programs, that we're going to have to look at that. But to keep this organization going and keep the NSOs and DSOs, especially our DSOs, working and carrying forward our mission, which is to help the disabled veterans and with their claims and stuff. I think that it's only 2% of the amount we have in $4 million. You know, it's a very small amount, and I personally would move to approve this plan for our employees.
Thank you. Chairman?
I would second it.
All right, then. We have a first and a second. All those in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed with nay. Great. Looks like it will go into motion. Quick question for you, Dan. It said in there 75% of the premiums, is that just for the individual, for the entire family, regardless of family size? How is that calculated?
Well, I think it's based on their specific request. So it does cover families. You know, and when we did our survey of employees, that was also calculated. But the key thing is that you know, we have a specific budget to it, and we look at, okay, the utilization of these funds coming from both the foundation and what we are going to do internally with the department is that, you know, this is our stepping stone, and that each year, you know, continuing with the program, we assess, are we going to be under budget or over budget in regards to the response and you know, how we're covering this, because a lot of our employees, or several of our employees, do have family members, but you know, in the demographics that we have, we don't have a lot of, you know, big families, and so with that said, I think you know, that's going to be a gray area that we can't really consider. But if you look at the plan specifically, they talk about, you know, the additional, like, a rider for if you're talking about a family, you know, and so all of that has been provided to you to you know, to peruse or you know, just to fall asleep at night looking at it if you want to, you know, review it extensively. But you know, so I don't really have a clear understanding of you know, what our exact expenses are going to be, because I don't know who will in turn seriously participate in it, you know, and to what degree.
So is the 78,000 based on the 9 of 20 opting in?
Actually, no, that's based on everybody opting in.
Okay, even though we're expecting probably only half actually doing so.
You know what? I mean, as we've always done in this department and in this finance committee, you know, we budget things to cover our basically mission to its full. But if we don't end up using those funds, then, you know, that will go on our balance sheet, but we do have it there in case of all of our employees want to participate.
Great. Thank you, Dan. All right, we will move on to number 10 for committee comments. Let me scroll 180,000 pages to get back up towards the top and look at my roll. And see, George, we sent it to you electronically now, so you and Dennis can actually zoom in as much as you want. You don't have to break out your magnifying glasses in order to read all of this stuff on paper.
And Dennis,
I don't have to use a magnifying glass just yet. These glasses are pretty good. So, but no, I enjoy looking at paper myself, and I'm willing to print it out, but 121 pages for this committee, I've never seen that thick of a packet. It had to do with the employee handbook, so I am more than happy to spend that little bit of ink for the employees. Okay.
No worries. Thanks, George.
Just write it off on your taxes, George.
You got that one right.
Do you have any other comments, George, before I move on to the next person?
No, I'm fine. I really appreciate it. But one thing we do have to remember is in these times, we still have a lot of chapter members coming on to Zooms and stuff. We had a chapter meeting the other night. And so we have to thank those members for continuing with us, because so many times when something like this happens, so many will walk away and not come back. And so we want to keep them as active as possible. So anytime you can recognize them, thank them and all, please do, because that's what's going to keep us going.
Sure.
Thank you, George. Any comments from my senior vice?
DAV headquarters. You know, I think it's great that we got you Medicare, and that's what happened, right? So, well, and that's all I have. I think it was wonderful. Great report, Dan. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Joe. How about from my junior vice?
Thank you. Understanding that that is a new money manager that we picked up for our investment portfolio, I think we all should be very pleased with the decisions they made overall. I think it's interesting about the relocating the headquarters, and I just want to thank everybody very much for all the information and all the work. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. James, anything from you?
Well, guy was talking about my math, but I'm
I
sharing
think
off
it makes
with,
you look better.
I agree with that. But I'm sharing off with the credit.
It brings
And,
back memories of
that's
the
why I
Lone
wanted to
Ranger
ask.
to me.
However, Monterey Bay Vets has the new boat,
Wow.
67-foot
Great.
yacht with 2 bedrooms and a bar. So it'll be ready anytime you guys want to go out.
Is the day too soon?
We need. But
I'm not doing anything next weekend.
Yeah, today, I'll go today.
Right on.
But anyway, we have a new boat, and John is retiring. We're looking for a new CEO. Also, at Palo Alto, Mr. Fitzgerald is retiring.
Wow.
So we got a lot of retirements going on. And Guy, you can get your shot anytime.
Thank you, James. Anything from my judge advocate?
I'd just like to say thank you for this great meeting, Commander. I want to welcome you to the neighborhood, and I want to know when your housewarming party is so the NSOs can come up and bless your house. We'd like to come up and see you. Dan, thanks for being a steward of our monies. I appreciate it. But I do have one question about the convention, and I realize you don't have a crystal ball. But it looks like on the national website, they're making reservations at the GSR still. You can put in a reservation. So it looks like they're planning on going forward. We were supposed to be at the GSR this year too, correct?
No. We were supposed to be at Hotel Irvine in Newport Beach area. So right now, Hotel Irvine is not open, and they don't anticipate opening. So, I mean, California is very unique. the ability for groups to meet is still, not available. And there's not been any governmental guidance, but we plan on having a convention at this point, but we will make a definitive decision, based on the science and government as far as their guidance. And so what I'm trying to do, and thanks for asking the question, is I'm going to try to get into a no attrition clause contract with a hotel. So then that way we can plan a conference, but in the advent that we're not allowed to do it, or we don't have just an enthusiastic group of people who want to go to a super spreader event, then we're not subject to penalties from the hotel because we didn't meet a certain block. And so I'm actively working on something like that. But no, national is moving forward. Who knows what's gonna be like. And I went over some of the statistics in regards to the hope and expectations of when the vaccines will be distributed and when we're going to reach a certain level of herd immunity and everything like that. But all of that is just speculation. So I wouldn't want to be the catalyst for a super spreader event, but the truth is that Mike Kerr might be our third year commander.
Are we going to
Just
have
at
a
the
screen big
beginning,
enough
I would have
for,
already tried to get the vote for a pay raise.
are we going to have a screen big enough for his head if that happens?
I don't think so, George.
I'll get that approved in the budget.
There you go.
But thanks, Dan. I was just curious whether we had plans in place in case we got the go ahead. It sounds like we do. So
Oh yeah, most definitely.
thanks.
Thank you, everyone. And lastly, Dennis, you've already had a large speaking role, so just, keep it brief.
I'll keep it short, Commander. Thank you. And, George, you were bitching about how much paper you used. I went through 2 ink cartridges, so I think that's a little bit more money than a pad of paper. So anyway, bottom line, I enjoyed the meeting. I thought it was very interesting, and I enjoyed seeing a lot of your faces. Joe, that goatee looks pretty sharp, but you don't have the years on it like I got. So anyway, you guys stay safe, stay healthy, and talk to you all soon.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to thank all of you for participating and making time to be here today. You guys are the reason we can continue our mission as we have for 100 years now. And I applaud all of you for taking the time and effort and using your expertise to keep this department running smoothly. With that said, our next scheduled meeting for the department's finance committee will be announced at a later time with a location to be determined. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Hearing none, we will continue in perpetuity.
He so moves.
All right, thank you, gentlemen. I have a first and a second. All those in favor with aye?
Aye.
Any opposed with nay? Nope. That concludes our meeting. Thank you all.